Okay, so today we're going to talk about writing a body paragraph for our personal narrative, and we're going to start back in this worksheet. So remember, the last video we talked about making an introduction, and that came from the top part of this worksheet. The body paragraph, the information for your body paragraph, comes from this bottom section of the worksheet. So each rising action is the main idea or your topic sentence of your body paragraph. So this would be for my first body paragraph. This would be for my second body paragraph. Remember, number 3 is optional. So this could be for my third body paragraph, or if I do have a number 3, I'd end up having 4 body paragraphs. So I'd have, this would be my third, number 3 would be third, and climax would be fourth. So it kind of depends if you think you need three rising actions to complete your story. Alright, so remember, after you filled this story writing worksheet out, then you filled your pre-write out. Okay, and that was the first video we made talking about how to fill a pre-write out. So if you forgot how to do that, you can go back to the first video. But we're going to find the pre-write. There it is there. Before we get that far, actually, let's just back up a little bit. And we showed this in the first video, but all week we've been looking at this story right here. And this is a great personal narrative. It has a lot of the components we need to make an effective personal narrative. So if you haven't read this one through, it'd be a great time to pause the video, read it through, because we're going to be referring to this story a lot. Alright, but anyways, let's go back to our pre-write, which was designed from this story. So we took this story, made this pre-write about it, and notice how each of these circles has 5 details. Okay, and we said that this story is broken up in our 3 main ideas by day 1, day 2, and day 3. Alright, so let's go back and take a look at just the one paragraph that was written about this story. And notice how we talked about the first main idea was day 1. Alright, and our writer said that as he walked off the airplane, he had a spark in his eyes as if to say, let's have some fun. So instead of saying this is what happened on day 1, which they could have done, he made it a little bit more creative and said, as he walked off the airplane. So we're getting an idea that this is the first day because he's walking off the airplane and that's how his adventure begins. He's just saying it differently, a little bit more creative. Okay, so he had that sentence finished. So now we're going to work on adding our details that we had around our circle. Okay, so one of our details is going to have some fun, and he kind of said that in his first body paragraph, let's have some fun. Talked about sleeping on the floor, which he said that. Talked about watching TV, which it said that right there. Video games, which it said that right here. Okay, notice we also had a couple other extra details. For instance, this sentence here, we began our adventure that night. So notice how just because you have 5 details here doesn't mean that you have to stay with 5 details. So if you come up with some creative ideas, it's going to add to this paragraph. After you think about these details, that's great to put it in. The more information, the better. Okay, so just a real quick review. The basic things that a paragraph needs is it needs a topic sentence, okay, which is our first sentence, and it needs details to talk about that topic sentence. Okay. Now there's some extra things that we can add to our body paragraph to make it even better yet. So let's take a look at some extra things that we can include in our body paragraph to really make it a nice body paragraph. Okay, so besides focusing on one main idea, transition words really help make a great body paragraph. Okay, so these words tell us when something's happening. Is it happening today, yesterday, right now, later on in the day? All those words help our reader follow along with what we're trying to tell them. Dialogue also adds to our paragraph because it allows our readers to kind of get inside the head of our characters. Okay, it allows our readers to maybe pick up on their personality, and it just makes our story a lot more interesting. So every time that you can think of that you can use dialogue in a story, it's going to make it a lot more interesting. Alright, finally, sensory details also add to our paragraph. So kind of tell us how the characters are feeling. Okay, tell us what they're thinking a little bit. So let's take a look at how these elements are used in some example paragraphs. Okay, let's go back to the one that we've been working with this entire week about the story about Brad visiting. And if we notice here, this author inserts some dialogue right here. Okay, this dialogue here allows us to figure out what mom's really like. Okay, she calls Brad honey, makes it look like she's a great mom, and it just makes a paragraph a lot more interesting. So that's an example of how to use dialogue. Okay, remember that our goal for this personal narrative is at least use dialogue twice. So at least try to find 2 spots in your personal narrative where you can use dialogue. All right, let's take a look at a few other things that make our paragraphs interesting. This paragraph here uses a couple things. First of all, it uses dialogue again. So we're getting an idea what Dad's like. We're also getting an idea what the character's like. This paragraph also uses sensory details. So it's telling us that our character doesn't usually like to take naps. So it kind of shows us our character's maybe a kid or has a lot of energy. Also shows us Dad said casually. So it shows us that how Dad's, kind of trying to surprise him a little bit by saying it casually. Just gives our reader a lot more information. This paragraph also has transition words, so it's telling us the next morning, the afternoon. Okay, so all these things make for a really nice body paragraph.